Hi everybody, Timothy here. I greet you all in Jesus Christ's mighty name. It is January 9th, 2026, and you're listening to yet another episode of the Brother Timothy Clark podcast. Hey, today we're talking about the Raddy RF919 because there are some things that I would like to clear up here with this ongoing series that we're talking about with the Raddy, because these are some things that I'm still experimenting with in regards to scanning on the Raddy. Now, I've been in contact with the Raddy support folks because this is a weird oddity that I just cannot figure out. So here is what's happening. My brother and I both have Raddy RF919s, same radio, same batch, same firmware. And they're just two different units. He has a unit and I have a unit. So his airband is not allowing him to save the presets and scan just those presets. Mine, on the other hand, is allowing me to save and scan just my presets. And so we're not real sure what exactly is going on. My UHF will allow me to save presets, but it will not scan those presets. I can save presets to shortwave, but it will not let me scan those presets. Yet I can hit the scan button, just a simple little tap of the scan button. It's the scan/ATS, and it will scan, but it is no longer scanning my presets. The only band that I'm aware of right now, and I have not tested it across the entire spectrum, so this is why I said this is a bit of a series. The bands that I have tested are UHF and Airband. Airband will scan just my presets. UHF, even though I have presets saved, it will not scan those presets. If I press and hold the up and down channel changing buttons whenever I am in channel mode, it will not scan through the preset channels that I made, even though a single tap of either up or down will toggle me through the channels that I have saved. So this is a weird oddity within the firmware of the radio, and we're not really sure right now as to what exactly is going on and why this is happening, apart from the fact that this is a firmware issue, and who knows if it'll ever be solved or not. But the odd part is, like I said, same firmware, and yet the radios are responding in two different manners. They are both Raddy RF919s. We're not talking about the Ritechus 313 or whatever the Ritechus model is. I think it's like 313 or 813. We're not talking about one Raddy and one Ritechus. We're talking about two Raddy RF919s, and the radios are both running the same firmware. So there's some oddities taking place. And the entire thing just has me shaking my head going, huh? So when I contacted the folks over at Raddy, I get this email. It says, oh yeah, it appears to scan the presets that you made because it's a narrow band, airband. I'm like, huh? That doesn't make any sense. At least that's how I'm reading her email. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And so here we are in the technological twilight zone. And, it's this weird oddity that we are experiencing with the RF9 RF919ers. Now, the other thing is that I can't seem to figure out, and again, it's a weird firmware oddity, is that if you are in your presets, in other words, you're toggling through your presets that you have saved, if you press up or down on the channel selector buttons, it should scan through those presets. That's what it's seeing. Instead, it scans through the band that you're on. So I'm not sure why they overlooked that obvious glaring issue in the last firmware update. You would think that would be a no-brainer. But nope. Now that just went off, I don't know if you just heard that. That just went off could have been Pittsburgh, it could have been Indiana, it could have been Ross River, it could have been Johnstown. It also could have been Guard or New York or Altoona. So I have these... I have the air-to-airs in here as well. So the other night where we had a whole bunch of aviation chatter going on, you're not going to get that here because I have completely overdone my frequencies. And I made it more niche-based based upon the stuff that I want to listen to. And, of course, I always want to be able to monitor Guard. That is a must for me. 121.5 is something that is a must to monitor. I always want to have a radio monitoring Guard. So, anyway. That's where we're at. Weird firmware oddities that I don't know if or when or how they're going to solve. You know, ideally they just put out a new firmware update and fix these bugs. But then it's like, okay, well, how do you push the firmware to the radio? Well, I would say use Bluetooth, and I don't understand why they couldn't do that. Their current solution is, plug in an SD card and hope you don't corrupt your files. Well, if you go through Bluetooth, update via Bluetooth, and I know that's a thing because you can update via Bluetooth with your Apple Watch. And so I don't understand why they just couldn't put an update feature in the app where you just grab the update in app, let it do its thing via Bluetooth, and have it be done with it. But I'm not sure how they're going to actually work that out. If I was going to, for example, be on the development team of Raddy and or Hamronda, that's how I would do it. I'd say, okay, you know what? Because there's so many people that might not have SD card readers. As a matter of fact, I'm one of them. I don't have an SD card reader. And so it doesn't make sense for me to try to update a radio without an SD card reader. That just is pointless. So I'm like, how can they push these updates? And it's like, well, common sense dictates that, you know, you could update via Bluetooth, okay? You know, this is not hard to achieve. You would put an update screen in the app. The app already interfaces to the radio via Bluetooth. You have a update interface in the radio app. You click update. You put your phone near the radio or you across a room, whatever the case may be. You let the app do the download and the install all via Bluetooth. That is totally doable. We're in 2026. And so there's no reason why that kind of update cannot be done. And so we'll have to see how all of that plays out in the future. I have had this radio since April of 2025. I bought this radio as a birthday present for myself. And I really enjoy the technological side of overall experimenting with this particular unit. This radio is truly one of my favorite radios, if not my favorite radio, because it opens the door, folks, to experimentation. And I love experimentation. Anything that allows me to dive into technicalities and learn a new piece of equipment, I love it. You know, I have the Tech 21 RK5 version 2. I actually have two of them because of the crazy stuff that happened with Sweetwater and USPS. I got one for free, and I consider that a praise God moment. That was in 2024, by the way, folks. 2024. So my RK5, believe it or not, is a year old in 2025. That just hit me. In December of 2025, my RK5 turned a year old. So happy birthday to two Tech 21 RK5s, because like I said, I have two of them. I bought one from TimothyClarkMusic, and, you know, Sweetwater refunded me, and eventually their USPS facility or Sweetwater, I'm not sure what happened. I contacted the owner of Sweetwater and kind of laid into them, because it's a $300 and some odd pedal. And, you know, there's absolutely no reason why you would lose that. There's absolutely no reason. You know, honestly, I do give Sweetwater mad respect, because they could have said, well, if it ships, you know, we want you to ship it back. They didn't. They said, if it ships, keep it. It's on us. Merry Christmas. We made the mistake. And so I do respect Sweetwater for actually saying, here's what we're going to do. And we're going to take the brunt of the brunt of the loss here. And again, to their credit, they did just that. And so honestly, I truly respect, I truly respect Sweetwater's dedication to making things right. They did not have to do that. I mean, if they wanted my business back, sure, they'd have to do that, you know, make it right. But they did right by me. And so I would gladly shop with Sweetwater again, knowing that if that same mistake happened, that they would make it right again. USPS supposedly lost the RK5V2 in their shipping. And yeah, their local USPS facility says, oh yeah, but we never received it. So I don't know what happened. I'm not even sure if they know what happened. But that is where we're at nonetheless. And, you know, essentially I got two of them. But I bring up the RK5V2 because I am still learning about that pedal. The one thing that hit me late last night was, what if I put the compressor at unity, okay, or maybe just a little bit above unity, turn on the RK5 overdrive, the oh my good overdrive, the OMG overdrive, because we all know that OMG does not stand for oh my good overdrive. We know that it does not stand for that. It stands for something else, and I am not going to take the name of my Lord and Savior, the name of my God, in vain by saying, oh my. So, it isn't happening. Now, I will say things like, oh my God, in prayer as an exaltation to God, but that is not the way that they mean the OMG overdrive to be. I don't believe they mean it like that. Nonetheless, what I was thinking was, if you put the if you put the compressor at unity and you turn on the OMG overdrive and you turn up the volume of the OMG overdrive. Not the drive itself, just the volume of the OMG overdrive, because that's got a lot of volume on tap. My question at that point is, because the compressor is connected to that drive circuit, because that's the way that Richie wanted it, if you turn up the volume of the drive, keep the drive all the way down, but turn the volume of the drive up, would it push back into that compressor and make that compressor more squashy? The tentative answer is yes, because the more you push that overdrive, the more you're pushing that compressor. So if you keep the compressor on clean, the drive on clean, and just turn up the volume, do you push the compressor harder? And I'm going to tentatively say yes. So maybe that'll be something that I dabble with here in the future as I learn more about even that piece of technology. So getting back to the topic at hand, I really love pushing the boundaries of technology and learning why this does what it does. Now, I could completely answer why the compressor would squash more with more volume. I can absolutely answer that. It is tuned to the OMG section of the RK5V2. And so the more of the output that is pushed from that overdrive circuit into the compressor, the more that compressor is going to squash back. It's going to fight back. And so the more volume you can push out of that, because that volume goes ridiculously loud. I don't think I've even had that volume turned up all the way. There's that much on tap on the overdrive. It isn't like my Sans Amp side where there's, just like a quarter turn. No, this knob turns like nobody's business. And I don't know why they put that much volume on the overdrive section. I really don't. I guess because Richie is a loud player and he wanted the extra volume for something. But that's an experiment that I want to dabble with. Also, running that compressor into my acoustic guitar. I have an acoustic guitar with piezo pickups. It's got Fender piezo pickup with a Fishman pre. Almost said ice with a pre. Fishman preamp and piezo pickup. It's a Fender CD60CE. But see, I can answer why the compressor does what it does. I can answer why the pickup does what it does. I can answer, all of this. I cannot answer beyond, it's a firmware thing. Why does this radio do this and my brother's radio do that when it's the same band, same firmware, same radio, two different units, same radio. When I see that, I'm going, huh? And so that in that point boggles my mind and it drives me nuts because now I don't know the how, or the why. Why is this happening? Right? I don't know that, and it's driving me bonkers. And I'm the kind of guy, I want to know the why behind why this is happening. I don't just want to know, hey, this works. I don't play that game. I don't care that it works. I'm glad that this works, and but I want to know the why behind it. Look, I'm a ham radio operator. Some of you that follow me on different forms of social media will see my call sign, KC3CDU. One of the big things with ham radio is that we learn the why behind what we know. The one thing that I dabble with, for example, is my UHF clear node. I know why my UHF clear node works. And my UHF clear node works because it's running a VoIP system. It's running off of Raspbian. It is utilizing the ham VoIP software, and it is it's running Linux, and so there's all of this that you can dive into, and you can learn the why behind why it does what it does. We talk about asterisk software or asterisk, phone notation, for example. But this is all stuff that you can learn about. Having a piece of firmware do two different things when it's the same firmware, two different units. Now, when I say two different units, I mean they are two different physical hardware radios. They are the same exact radio as in the model type of radio. They're from the same batch of radios. So, and so that's why I'm saying two different units. Okay, so just being perfectly clear on that. So, having two different radios that's running the same firmware react in two different ways, that boggles my mind. That's not how computing works. That's not at all how computing works. It's not meant to work like that. So, that is where we're at in terms of the radios doing what the radios are going to do. We don't know why. Beyond the fact that it's firmware, which doesn't make sense because firmware isn't going to behave on two different devices that are literally same model, same batch of devices. Firmware does the same thing from one device to another device. That's how firmware works. It's software. Software works off of two different devices, does the same thing. If it's the same software, if it's the same firmware, it's going to do the same thing on two different devices. That's how it works. But that isn't what's happening, and it's driving me bonkers. So, I don't understand. I don't get it. But anyway, that's where we're at, and happy Friday. It finally is Friday. I think this is the first Friday of 2000. No, actually, the first Friday of 2026 was the second. Yeah. So this is the second Friday of 2026. So happy second Friday of the new year. And I hope that it is everything that you want it to be. And that'll do it for this episode. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, complaints, feel free to go ahead and send those to me via email. My email address is TimothyClarkMusic@me.com. Once again, that email address is TimothyClarkMusic@me.com. My website address for more information is TimothyClarkMusic.wordpress.com. Once again, that website address is TimothyClarkMusic.wordpress.com. And my name is Timothy. Thank you for joining me for yet another episode of the Brother Timothy Clark Podcast. See ya!